morning.
Morning.
Happy Thanksgiving week. Because there's so much to be thankful for. But we don't have habits of gratitude. We don't have habits that we confirm who we are in the world. And that's where this comes from. This comes from the idea of listening of what's a core element. An arch is like a keystone. There's that one thing. What is that? And so for today, for this week, that keystone is going to be hello. It's going to be, what does it mean to say hello to the world? The reason my family joined the Unitarian Universalist church we did when we moved was simple. We had two to choose from, two UU churches to choose from. But the one we chose welcomed us. It welcomed us warmly, intimately, specifically. We were strangers in town, and the woman who met us at the door didn't see strangers. She only saw family she didn't know. The reason my cousin joins the large Baptist congregation in the city she moved to is the same. New to the city, overwhelmed and without community, she went to the local UU congregation. She only had one to choose from. There she was met with judgment and greed. The other church had helped her discern neighborhoods to live in, find schools, daycare. She felt seen and welcomed. And that is the church she joined. It is not creeds or dogma or a lack thereof that create our communities. It's how we live them. It is more than the words we say, although we have to formulate those words. It is not just that we show up, although we have to show up. It's how we say hello. The art of how to see family and community in everyone is part of the lost art of the church ladies, the lost art of the temple grandmothers. It's part of the lost art of grace, of the glue that holds our communities and fabric together in this world. And right now, we are infected. We are diseased. We are infected with fear. And we see stranger dangers everywhere. And it's doing far more than killing civil conversations. It's killing communities. It's killing actual people. It's killing our world. It's destroying our planet. And it's easy to look at outer circles, to cast that away from us, place blame or bias on the other side of the lake. As that famous joke goes, how do I get to the other side of the lake? You are on the other side of the lake, comes the answer. Oft-quoted Matthew 3:5. I've said it a lot. You know this. You've heard it. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust or the splinter in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank or log in your own? How can you say to your brother, let me take that speck out of your eye, when there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will be able to see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Sometimes it's far easier to focus outside ourselves, but we're all mirrors. All of us, all the time. We mirror our environments from our early childhood. We mirror our early cultures. We mirror them this present day. You mirror those you're surrounded by, what you listen to, what you see. We are combinations of cues and responses, combinations of cultures and communities. Even if you think you don't belong to that community, your presence in that community affects you, and you are therefore a member. But this is really important. Who you are is how you create your world. What you are doing must match what you're doing. Who you are, who you say you are. The language gets like layered here. So who you say you are has to be what you are doing, because that is how you create your world. You can't just join a club and say, I'm a member of the Sierra Club, therefore I'm green. not so much. Anchor of identity is powerful. We like to think that identity is a static thing. It's like a core, unchanging element. I am, this is my identity. There's lots of push your core identity. And it is the cornerstone of identity politics and identity movements. And that's actually very, very important. But I want to be very clear. I'm not speaking to intrinsic areas of embodied identity, such as racial or ethnic origins, genders, or any of the myriad of sexual and affectional affiliations. None of that. Those are all what I would call an intrinsic area of your individual being. What I'm talking to is how you are and who you are and how that shows up in the world and how that impacts everyone you meet. There's an important part of identity and identity politics for people who have never been seen. That's very, very important. That is not what I'm speaking to today. What I'm speaking to today is who are you and how do you show up, regardless of your identities that are given to you, that you come with. Most of us are aware of certain sawdust and splinters in our eyes. Most of us are quite happy to avoid our planks. Yeah, sure, I could have another helping of potatoes. Some of us even turn our specks into planks. We make our tiny little, ooh, that's not quite right, into this great big thing that hides our holy nature as we walk in the world. We hide behind false goals of becoming worthy, more pure, better. We hide behind big, deep gashes of insecurity. Don't look there, there's a little wounded child over there. Don't just hide behind me right now. You can't see her, can you? No, you can't see her, can you? No. We hold big, wide goals for ourselves and our community. We hold big, wide goals for our churches. Timidly, in private, we hold big, wide goals for ourselves and we don't tell anybody about it. But we don't get those goals. We don't know how to reach them. And if we touch them for a second, we're like, oh, wow, that was hot. That was a hot goal. I need to retreat from that. But I don't want you to retreat from it because we need those goals. We need your big, audacious, personal goals in this world. We need them. That's why each and every one of you has unique goals that only you can fulfill. That's important. I want to bring to you today what I consider perhaps the most important spiritual activism of this moment. And I'm very serious about this. I've just spent a long time, feels up in I was at Toronto at the Parliament of the World Religions. And this really hit me very, very important because there were thousands of people there. There were over 270-something different faith groups that were there. And there was common ground. There was common ground that needed to be done, and it needed to be done by people like everyone here in this room, coming together with a certain understanding, a certain, we are here, we are now, we are worthy. All are welcome. Really important. But who are we? Who are we? Who are you? How does that create the world we live in? How does a simple fundamental question shift everything? You know, this sign that says all are welcome and all are worthy, we're going to start right there. How worthy do you feel? What? No, seriously. In this moment, how worthy do you feel? Do you ever unpack that word? Do you feel worthy here more than you might in another location? Do you feel worthy in your bathroom when you look in the mirror first thing in the morning? How worthy do you feel? How welcome? How welcome do you feel here? I deeply hope that everybody here in this room feels truly, deeply welcomed, because you are from this point of view. But it's only important if you feel it from your point of view. But do you feel that welcome other places you go? Do you feel that welcome in the checkout line? Do you feel that welcome at Thanksgiving dinner? All of you. Or do you keep parts of you away from that meal because you know that those parts wouldn't be quite so welcome? What does it mean to be fully welcomed? Dive into that word this week. I don't want dictionary definitions. Not go, oh wait, I'll go look up at the Oxford. Okay, worthy means giving value to, assigning a value to, no, this is not what I'm looking for. I want you to find out what does that being of worth mean to you, personally. See, it's through our actions that we create our world. So if our actions in the wider community are inhibited because of how we feel whether we're worthy or not, if our actions in the wider world are inhibited because of how we feel we're welcome, then we are not being able to bring our best and holy self to a task that needs to be done, which is nothing short of saving the world. Without any hyperbole. How many stones have been put in for fires? I'm looking at this incredible outpouring of love in the form of blankets stacked high over there in that corner because of a hurricane. Your self is needed. This is a call to action. Another way of saying that we create our world with our actions is that we do it by our habits, unconscious or conscious. They build our community, they build it intimately and globally. We are agents of healing or agents of destruction. And the truth is that we all are a little bit of both. The question is, do we kind of mitigate? Are you more healing than you are destructive? Are you more destructive than you are healing? Where's the balance? Because we do live in a world where when I go to buy some food, it will be wrapped in plastic. I was at the Parliament of World Religions, and I ate a beautiful vegan meal given to me by the Sikhs. It was wonderful. It was served on sacrificial plates. But that was the balance in order to be able to feed this meal that had to happen. Because there was no other way to do that without that part. Yes, they are supposedly the biodegradable kind, but. So we're all working the best that we can. So we have to sit with that, with who's the best that we can be at that moment. Not how do we judge that, oh, I was given food, but it was on styrofoam. We have to look at what that means. Are we building the Death Star and destroying the planet? Or are we part of the Green Revolution? Do you consider yourself part of the resistance? Yeah, we got little nodding heads going out there. Yeah. Okay. It's equally important to know what you stand for. Because if your identity is only in opposition to that which you hate, then you are that. Without that opposition, who are you? Yes, you're a holy child of God. Or a sacred human of the cosmos. Yeah, okay. That's a given. I've said it a gazillion times. You can look it up. You can find it in every spiritual text. You are a holy child of God. You know, or maybe you're a holy grown-up. There's some conversation going on about that. Or maybe you're just, maybe you were holy teenagers at the moment. Because I kind of think that we're kind of that sort of bit where we are at the moment. And I love teenagers. Why? Because teenagers are struggling with this very question. Who am I? What is my identity in the world? What identities do you wear? I mean, if you were to make a list of adjectives and nouns, labels that you wear, what would they be? For example, are you kind? Are you caring? Are you a lover? What does that mean? Would spiritual be on your list? Would humorous be on your list?
Yes, ma'am.
Would Unitarian Universalist be on your list? You might say, well, I want to be compassionate, but it's really hard. You'll stop right there. Because, listen, I want to be compassionate, but it's really hard. Have you ever had that feeling recently? Thought anything? Yeah, most of us have had like those moments where we're like, ooh, oh, wait, it made a bad day too. Yeah. But this is what I want you to hear. What you've actually said is not, I want to be more compassionate. What you've actually said is, I'm not a compassionate person. You said, I want to be compassionate. What you said is, I'm not a compassionate person. Is that true? Is that really true? I'm not certain. I mean, looking at the work by Byron Katie, check it out. There's others masters going way, way back, but she's very accessible. Sacred inquiry begins with this question. Is this true or is that true? Is it really true? How do I know it's true? And you can go all the way back into the Vedas and you'll find variations of this. Well, is that true? Is this true? How do I know it's true? And you can check with your own experience and with textual knowledge, so your mind and your heart and your body are working in the same place. And you might find you actually are a compassionate person. Odds are you were. We're actually wired for it. It's part of the human condition. We are wired to be altruistic and compassionate. So the next step is to remind yourself of your actions and keep creating more overt experiences that show you as a compassionate person. And if you have problems with that, you can sit there and say, well, what would a compassionate person do at this moment? And that can give you a model of like a self-reflective, because remember, it's easier to go out and in. So it's like, well, a compassionate person would not keep their hand on this horn. Oops. A compassionate person would think, oh, maybe they did have a bad day. And then your actions are going to start matching who you really are. And I like the idea of like, what would a compassionate person do? I mean, how many of you heard the phrase, okay, everybody in this room, what would Jesus do? Right? Yeah. I mean, it's a lovely phrase, but I'm not certain it's terribly practical because you're turning over tables, withering figs, also part of that. Not to mention you might get really frustrated at not being able to turn water into wine when you need it. So sort of phrase that a little bit. Just sort of look at that a little bit and say, well, what would a compassionate person do? It might be clearer if I use a smoking analogy. I used to be a smoker. I'm not anymore. I don't smoke anything, cigarettes or meat.
Nice.
I am a non-smoker. Once upon a time, I smoked 3, sometimes 4 packs a day. Wow, I know, right? And as long as I was trying to quit, I was still a smoker. And it didn't matter what goals I had, the plans I made. I might get close to them. Oh, I'll measure them up. I'll smoke 1 cigarette an hour. That will be it for my waking hours. Right? Yeah, because I was still a smoker. And it didn't matter. Now, I'd lost 2 fathers to cancer and lost 1 pregnancy. So I had motivation. Motivation wasn't the issue. It is very hard. In fact, some people will tell you, professional people, researchers, that it is impossible to create behaviors that are in direct opposition to your identity. I was a serious punk, beat, poet, performance, actress, artist person. And part of that picture was being a smoker, and sometimes part of that picture was wearing a beret. And then I became addicted. And interestingly enough, it's not the physical addiction that controls behavior change. It's the identity behind it. Internally, your internal identity, and the environment that supports it. Everybody I was with smoked coffee houses in Greenwich Village, or the East Village. So how did I quit? I fell in love with a non-smoker. And a dear friend of mine was becoming a hypnotherapist, and she needed guinea pigs.
Nice.
My environment changed when David moved in with me, and she helped me change my internal identity and strengthen my connections to my motivation. But part of that work was I had to see myself and claim my identity as a non-smoker, as someone who did not smoke. I was not a smoker. That was the very first thing. And I have to tell you now, I can't imagine smoking. The idea makes me absolutely nauseous. It's very difficult for me to be around smokers. We know things through our experience and our cognition. The stories we tell at the interplay between what we mentally process and sensorially experience become our truth with a capital T. We have to shift what that is as we grow. Thomas Merton taught, we make ourselves real by telling the truth. We can hardly forget that we need to know the truth, for the instinct to know is too strong in us to be destroyed. The instinct to know is too strong in us to be destroyed. But we can forget how badly we also need to tell the truth. We cannot know truth unless we ourselves are conformed to it. We must be true inside, true to ourselves, before we can know a truth that is outside of us. But we make ourselves true inside by manifesting the truth as we see it. And the truth is, no human is a smoker. Those first moments that it comes in is awful. Your body will fight it. We're not designed to do it. A core truth is that we don't want to do things that will kill us. Matching those identities up deeply assists with how we are in the world. I believe that's why it's so essential that we bring our conscious awareness to who we are and how we want to show up in the world. We need our each unique individual true selves, but we also need to see the truth in the shadows of our behavior so that we do not align our true selves with those shadows. We shift them. We shine lights on them. In the 95 study, researchers Baumeister and Levi proved what might seem obvious to a lot of lay people. The desire for interpersonal attachments is a fundamental human motivator. In other words, our need to belong is our single greatest essential requirement. Nothing trumps it from a behavioral standpoint. It is deeply wired by epochs of evolution and grace. And the only possible way we can fill this need is to fulfill this need in others. The only way we can fill this need is to fulfill this need in others. This is the science behind, that underpins, that provides the foundation for do unto others as you would have others do unto you. It is the golden rule. Not because we thought it was the golden rule, or we feel it's the golden rule, but in our DNA, it is our golden rule. To do unto others, we have to know them. We have to meet them. We have to develop the hello habit, the greeting way. Quite literally, by greeting everything and everyone in our path with thanksgiving and love. And it's not hard, because nothing in our culture says we're supposed to do this, except everything in our DNA says we're supposed to do this. The response to the question is, how are we supposed to treat others? The Hindu sage Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi answers, anybody know this one? How do you supposed to treat others? There are no others. All too often we greet people by asking, where are you from? How many of you done that? Oh my gosh, in Toronto, I couldn't walk 2 feet. Oh, where are you from? Where are you from? In every accent of the world. But I think we have to stop that. Because my clever answer of route 1 is just not enough to cut it. And I don't really see how it's actually helpful. I think it detracts from the actual person that's right in front of you in that moment. It gives us a story that we can start writing in our mind. In Leviticus 19:33-34, we're advised, when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. Yeah. When a foreigner resides in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. This is the teaching. A better question is not, where are you from? A better question might be, what brought you here? Hi, I'm Liz. What brought you here today? That's this moment. So this is my advice to you this Thanksgiving weekend. Let this become part of your daily practice. Getting back, let go. I want to go back to the basics of the first principle of your Unitarian Universalist faith. So too often we just quote the principles. We list them up there. We forget the very beginning of it. What's the very first words of the principles? We promote and affirm. That means we promote it, we raise it up, and we take it into ourselves. We promote and affirm the inherent worth of every person. Hopefully that will be changed to every being in my lifetime. That was my childhood dream. It's still my dream. And that's how I say it, because that's what I'm manifesting in the world. But they're not dogma handed down from on high. The principles are because committees, lots of them, still ongoing, look at what is universal and unifying and write them down. That's why on the simple one it says Jewish and Christian teachings, that's about to change. That's going to change, and they're having conversations about should it be called the Abrahamic faiths? And why Abrahamic? Who gets to name it after Abraham? Why is it not named after Sarah? Why is it not named after Esther? Why is it not named after Miriam? There are lots of interesting conversations going on around these kind of things. It's a work in progress. But the point is that we must affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And you are a person. And we're very busy on our band shells going out about the worth and dignity of those people out there, and we forget to do it for us sitting in these pews, in these chairs, in that chair right there. So every morning, you're going to look in the mirror and say, hello. You're going to practice this. It's going to take practice. You might go, hello, beautiful. You can get cheesy with this. There's nobody there. Well, in my case, there's probably a cat, a dog, and a knock, but you know, that's all right. Good morning. Hello. You are worthy. You are welcome. I am so thankful that you are here today. Now, look yourself in the eye and say that. Because we have to start practicing it, because that's what we're doing when we're looking at everybody else whose eyes we want to avoid as we walk down the street, or when we give them cash because we're buying a whatnot. That's the practice. But it has to be a practice. It's like, oh, I like this idea, you know? I am still learning how to paint. I will always be learning how to paint. I pick up a brush, I dip it in ink, and I go, because it takes practice. We say we want an open faith. We say we want an open world where all are welcome and all are worthy. We have to include ourselves. It's the only way to make that world happen. Let it be your mantra. All are welcome, all are worthy. What does it mean to say that? How can all be all? You mean everybody? Yes. What about Hitler? Yes. Because the more worthy you feel, the less harm you do. It's not part of your ego. It's not part of your shadow. It's part of being a beautiful child of the earth, a beautiful holy being, teenager of God. Go out into your day. This week is not about Turkey. It's not about false historical narratives. Let it be a week about giving thanks, about reclaiming our better selves, of building heaven on earth, however you define it. Heaven on earth from the hells of our own making. We can do this. I know we can. How? Heck, I quit smoking. I know it because we all are worthy. We all belong here. Each and every one of us. We just have to start acting like it. So go out. Act up.
Nice.
Namaste.